Hello and welcome to the Hi, I'm Ian channel. This is not Ian, but this is.
Oh, hey, I am actually Ian. Hello.
Yeah, and this is the
This,
UPA Season 2 Draft Analysis for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
yes,
And
it is. And this is Matt, who records my videos for me because I don't have a laptop because
reasons.
reasons. Yeah.
So, I'm Matt, this is Ian, and
So,
we're just going to get right into this. So the first Pokemon we have right here.
yeah, I mean, if you've seen the two videos on my channel, I'm sure you know who Matt is.
Yeah. And pretty much everyone watching this knows
Anyway,
who you are, and if they know who you are, they probably know who I am. So, but anyway.
yeah, yeah, I would assume so. Anyway, yeah, UPA. It's another draft league. We got 9 people involved in it. We had 12, but no, we don't talk about that. Uh, so
We lost them at sea.
we did. It was tragic. It was a fantastic memorial service.
Yeah, yeah.
Eh,
Anyway.
Anyway, so let's just get into why you guys probably clicked on the video. Tapu Koko. It's my first mon for the draft. And I decided that's what I wanted to kind of build my team around. You're going to notice a theme as you continue to go through my team. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
obviously, Ian and I debated on what his first pick would be, and Tapu Koko was literally probably came into the discussion 30 minutes into it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And even then we were like,
we
okay,
allowed,
fuck
like,
it.
fun fact, we were, well, again, if you watch the video, you probably know this already, but we used Smogon tiering instead of like GBA style tiers, so it was like we allowed Pokemon that you wouldn't traditionally see, like Mega Mawile, Greninja, Tapu Lele, Magearna, and like Greninja and Magearna went pick 1 and 2. So I had the option of picking Tapu Lele or Tapu Koko, and I personally preferred Tapu Koko because it fit a certain method of attack that I wanted to use for this draft. And Tapu Koko itself just personally appeals to me more as a great momentum gainer. It has both Volt Switch and U-Turn, the amazing 130 speed tier, the fact that it can sets up electric terrain, so to use its own Volt Switches, it'll basically double their power.
And
so,
plus, not speaking for its in battle ability, but like it's unlike Tapu Lele, it's very easy to build a draft around Tapu Koko. Whereas Tapu Lele, you have to start.
yeah.
I mean, of course, you get the obvious things, the huge hitting power, and well, you don't really need anything else besides that with Tapu Lele. But with Tapu Koko, it has its weaknesses, but it also has it's very easy to cover. Like obviously, it has those type weaknesses, whatever ground type, ground easily coverable, but it gives you a great starting point to build a draft around. That's just
Yeah.
one of the biggest factors for Tapu Koko, in my opinion.
Yes, and when I went into Tapu Koko, I realized that ground, poison, and steel. Those are traditionally things that Tapu Koko. Well, not steel as much, but there are some steel ground types running around. And like I wanted to make sure I had something that could handle those and go alongside with it. So I decided to grab Garchomp and also to grab it to make my speed tiers like really good, because first 2 Pokemon not having a speed tier below 100, it forces teams that are slower, if they want to deal with my team, they'll either need to bulk it out more, or they're going to need to run a couple Scarfers. And Garchomp is one of those Pokemon that's so incredibly versatile. Like you can run Scarf sets, you can run Tank Chomp, you can run Setup, it gets Stealth Rocks, it gets Dragon Tail for shuffling around. It's just one of those Pokemon that can do anything that you really needed to. Plus, grabbing a ground type early on in the draft is really good, because later on in the draft, you're going to see a lot of like bulkier ground types go, because everyone's going to want a Volt Switch immunity. So I decided to grab one of the best Volt Switch immunities out of OU right in the second round, just to ensure that Tapu Koko has a bit more leeway to just volt switch around teams.
So obviously, you got those two solid Pokemon right off the bat, and going to the third, you already got a lot of your bases covered. You know,
Yeah.
so you decided to round out your OU with this pick.
Yeah. Decided to round out my OU picks with Mew. Little Soldier 76 right here. He's Mew is one of those Pokemon that I was kind of surprised it was still allowed on the board, and because we're using Smogon rules, Munium Z is allowed, so I can potentially fire off some Genesis Supernovas and do stuff like that. Mew is one of those Pokemon, though, that it can literally do anything. Like, you know what Mew does, and by knowing what Mew does, you know that Mew can do anything. It has great setup options, it has great bulk options, it can set up hazards and remove hazards. It can go physical, it can go special. It also gets access to both Volt Switch and U-Turn, so if I want to just continue momentum to get into Pokemon like Garchomp, or just move around teams with Tapu Koko and Mew, I can do that. So, and Mew, of course, getting coverage for pretty much everything. Psychic, Ghost, Fire, Electric, Ice,
And obviously
Dark.
with the Mew pick, I think you probably got the most solid three Pokemon you could have gotten OU. There's not any glaring weaknesses. It's not really any glaring strengths. So really, when you get into your UU picks, you can just go any direction that you want to.
Yeah. And going into UU, I actually sniped Mike here by grabbing his Mega. I think literally one pick right before his, but I grabbed Mega Beedrill just because Tapu Koko Mega Beedrill sounds like so much fun to use. Two incredibly fast U-turners and Volt Switchers that, like, if they're coming in on something, they're likely going to force it to switch out. And then once I make them switch out, I can go into something like Mega Beedrill, and if they decide to switch out again, I'm just going to constantly be getting momentum on them. And Mega Beedrill, like, you know what it does. It U-turns, it's fast, it hits really hard for what it is. I mean, sometimes it can be underwhelming despite having 150 attack and adaptability. It doesn't seem like it hits as hard as it should. But at the same time, it's still hard to find swap-ins into Mega Beedrill. And it does have some good utility options like Toxic Spikes and Defog, so like if I can force a switch, I can potentially get up some hazards or remove some hazards for the rest of my team. So I'm not saying I'm actually going to end up running those sets, but there are options there.
And you got already with Garchomp, Tapu Koko, and Beedrill, and throwing a Mew there, you already got like so much offensive potential, just like 4 picks into your draft.
It's just going to constantly pressure opponents with just forcing them to switch out and then always being able to get switch momentum into my favor. It's just going to make it nearly impossible for my opponent to grab momentum on a lot of my mons.
So now running again, you decided to go wherever the fuck you wanted. You're not even at a point in your draft where you have to start covering holes. You can just keep adding on and adding on. And so that's just what you did.
I can, and I decided to grab my fire type here. I decided to grab a decently offensive fire type that can also go defensive if the situation requires it, and I decided to go Arcanine. I've actually become decently used to using Arcanine in draft, and I love using it. I love that it has recovery for itself. It has hazard, not hazard. It has status and Will-O-Wisp. It has priority and extreme speed. It has all the coverage it needs just with Bulldoze, Close Combat, Flare Blitz. It's hitting a lot of things that can switch into it. Wild Charge. It's a good Pokemon just to have in the back for extra offensive pressure or for a defensive backbone, considering my draft at this point is pretty decently offensive. I mean, I do have Pokemon that can switch into moves. Heck, even Tapu Koko could probably take a hit or two. But it's still nice to have that offense, to have that backbone. Plus, I don't exactly have the best fire resists at this point, other than Garchomp.
So, again, I think this is, I would arguably say, the start of your defensive core for your team. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
And another thing I would
yeah,
like to add,
and,
look, just think of the speed tiers that this draft has so far: Tapu Koko, Garchomp, Mew, Beedrill, and Arcanine. And you just have all the, just the 130, the 102, the base 100 and 95. Like, no matter what the speeds of the rest of your Pokemon are, you're pretty well rounded already. So that's just one thing you don't even have to worry about. And I doubt that it's even one thing that you're considering. Well, I guess you're considering a little bit, but not, a main concern. Some drafts obviously have a lot of trouble with speed tiers. This, without even trying.
yeah, I really like to have great speed tiers right off the bat, which is something you'll see in my next couple of picks. Like, I still get a couple of fast Pokemon here and there, but a lot of my picks are just kind of rounding out my speed tiers because if everything's super fast, they're just going to be running a bunch of Scarf Pokemon. If I get some slower threats in there too, it could ease them into saying they don't need to bring as many Scarfers, and then my faster Pokemon can still outspeed them. But this next pick could be considered a bit questionable, considering I got so much momentum, and then I get a Pokemon that people say is a momentum sponge. It basically just kind of sits there and doesn't really gain any form of momentum, and that's Alomomola. So I decided to grab this because I really wanted a Pokemon that could just heal the rest of my team. I love having Wish Passers. I honestly think it's something that you should have on your draft, is having a Pokemon that can consistently get in other Pokemon safely. It's basically a Pokemon that if you know the Pokemon you're going to swap in isn't getting O-code, it'll bring them all the way back up to full health with those fat wishes, and then you can continue. Especially on my draft, where if I get like a Pokemon in like Tapu Koko or Mega Beedrill in, and then get them back up to full health, I can just start gaining momentum back again. So I think on my team in particular, I can use Alomomola to continually get momentum. And Alomomola is a Pokemon that, like, it's nice to just have a general sponge, a Pokemon that can basically be guaranteed and built to take on any Pokemon that it needs to, aside from, like, strong electric or grass types. It can usually take, like, at least 2 hits from anything it's built to take on. And with those fat wishes, it can be insanely hard to break down.
And again, a good water type essential to any draft, and you picked up, I guess the most solid, depending on how you, define solid water type in the game. So right here, again, type synergy, obviously a factor when making drafts. So far, you got.
I know it is incredibly passive. Like, it could even be considered like more passive than like Chansey or Toxapex, because like it doesn't even get Haze or Seismic Toss to break subs. But with Alomomola, it's like a Pokemon that you're probably not going to be leaving in for too many turns, because or especially for me anyway, because I'm probably just going to bring it in, use Wish, and then swap out into something offensive to just get momentum back on my track.
And even if you don't bring Alomomola a single time, people are going to prep for it. This is one of those Pokemon where you're just forced to prep for it, because if you just bring it and they don't have anything to deal with it, you're just going to be sitting there for 200 turns wondering what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, and you're just going to be sitting there, and it's going to stall you out. It's going to take it's going to status your team, and it's going to severely weaken it for Pokemon like Tapu Koko, Mega Beedrill, or even Arcanine or Garchomp just come in and clean up at the end.
So that Alomomola does run out you picks, and here we go into some, I would say some pretty, some Pokemon that just round out a draft really well in RU.
Yeah. RU is where I decided to continue my trend of offensive pressure while also getting some necessary speed tiers and some necessary utility for the team. I decided for my first one, I decided to grab Swellow. Swellow has become insanely good this generation in the lower tiers with Specs Boomer. Specs Boomburst and Specs Hurricanes. The fact that it did get Hurricane, it gets Heat Wave. This is literally all the coverage it needs. Like, unless you're facing something like a Rhyperior, which you can just run Hidden Power Grass on. Like, anything that can take on Swellow's hits is likely going to be destroyed by a Hidden Power that it could run. And Swellow isn't just a one-trick pony. Like, it can run things like...
a one-trick birdie.
Yeah, one-trick birdie. Got him. It can run things like Defog if you really want to, and it can run the physical Guts set, and especially with the burn nerf, it's only going to be taking 6% each turn, so they can't just do what they did in the previous generation and stall out the Toxic Orb.
So, yeah, again, just adding to your massive, speed, just massive amount of speed you have on this team with just another, 125. Wow, it's not too far off from the 130. Still, it's there. It's present, and this is like
It's another Pokemon that's going to outspeed a majority of Pokemon. I mean, it's faster than Weavile. And, like, it's another Pokemon that does get U-turn, so, again, continuous momentum.
And this is probably, like, your first dedicated wall breaker on your team. And, again, another Pokemon you're kind of forced to prep for unless you have a pretty, a pretty solid check for it, like, just on the surface of your team, or else you're going to start getting creative. Because,
Yep.
It's a wall breaker, and it's kind of flying stab is kind of hard to stop.
Yeah, it is. So, my next pick, I decided to grab my Dark type, and also one of my Fighting type. Kind of a minor spoiler there, but, like, I decided to grab Pangoro.
Love this picture, by the way.
It gets part... Yeah, thank you. Parting Shot. Parting Shot is a very, very useful move on this team. Again, with the idea that I kind of accented Alamamola. Getting free switches into things that don't necessarily like taking hits is just so nice. And it's a Pokemon that's like kind of the idea of a slow U-turner. It's just a slow momentum gainer that like it hits base 58 speed, which is slow, but it's a good speed tier because it'll still outspeed most walls. And with that 124 special physical attack, it, like, with moves like Knockoff, Super Power, or Hammer Arm, whichever one you want to use, Gunk Shot, even Bullet Punch. I got Bullet Punch this generation, so that's great. It gets, like, all the coverage it needs to just decimate slower teams. And running things like Life Orb or Choice Band or even Choice Scarf, like, they can just make Pangoro an insane threat to teams. And again, I like the idea of just having Parting Shot. It's going to be nice to Parting Shot around.
Yeah, again, another dedicated wall breaker. While, your Garchomp and your Tapu Koko, they can be great wall breakers. But now, with the addition of Swellow and Pangoro, you don't need them to be wall breakers. They can obviously still can be, but they don't have to be wall breakers with just the presence of Pangoro and Swellow.
Yes, that does bring up a very good point. Like, I don't need to run Garchomp like an offensive threat every week because I can bring it defensive and then still rely on Swellow or Pangoro to just be my wall breakers. Or I can just go super hyper offensive. Like, this team allows me to have options, which I really like.
Yeah, obviously. It doesn't lean offensive or defensively one way or the other, and the Pokemon that are currently on it can go both ways and support both styles of play. So really, kind of, it's probably one of the more well-rounded teams in the league in terms of just balance.
It still has a balance to it, but it offers gateways to run any sort of style that's necessary. I can bulk out my team one week and then go super hyper offensive the next one. Which
not
I
many
really
teams
like
can
a
say
lot.
that. Literally not that many teams can say that. But this one, I think anyone can agree. Obviously.
Yeah. So, next I decided to grab my Grass type, and it's another slow U-turner to continually give momentum. I decided to grab Serena, which gives me I think my first Pokemon that's like can consistently be a hazard remover. especially considering I have Pokemon like Swellow, Arcanine, Mega Beedrill. They just don't like, and they just don't like switching into hazards. And like teams that constantly grab momentum don't like continually getting worn down with hazards. So having a Pokemon that I can put Rapid Spin on like consistently, and I can get like say, okay, this can be a designated hazard remover, but on certain weeks I can put Defog on Mega Beedrill or Swellow or Mew. Like I don't need to have Serena be strictly a hazard remover, and when they see, oh, he's just using it for defensive hazard removal, that one week I bring a Scarf or a Bandit or like just a Swords Dance setup set, like it's gonna terrify them.
And it just adds to that, the momentum core of that you have going for the team. Complement probably Serena's like one of the best Pokemon to complement the Voltorn a Volturn centric team. I'm not saying this is obviously centered around your Voltorn. Why the fuck do I keep saying Voltorn?
Volturn,
Yeah,
Matt.
yeah.
Learn English.
Yeah, obviously the Serena's like one of the best Pokemon to complement one of those. Yeah, I'm just gonna let's just go into NU.
Yeah, especially considering I got it in round 3 of RU. Like I thought it was a steal for that.
I could see this thing going round 1 if a team really needs it. If not, definitely round 2.
I may. One thing I'm considering, I might switch out Serena for Decidueye, because later on in the draft you're going to see why, but I honestly think Serena just does a very good job at what it needs to do.
So,
plus it's a cleric,
yeah.
So it cures status.
Having 2 clerics is
nice.
kind of cool, I guess.
Well, I don't think, wait, do any of my other team members get Heal Bell? Well, I know Mew gets Heal Bell, but I know Alomomola gets Refresh.
Yeah, I was saying Mew. I don't think Alomomola gets Heal Bell, does it? I don't think it does.
No,
you have me doubting myself. Yeah.
Well, it's a cleric in the sense that it can heal other people's it can bring back people's health, but it can't heal status.
Yeah. Anyway, NU Mons.
Yeah, NU Mons. So I had to grab my Steel type and a secondary ground type because I don't like the idea that everyone can just run Hidden Power Grass, Hidden Power Ice, or any form of ice coverage and just take out my ground type, and that's the only way I can stop Volt Switch. So I grabbed Steelix, which gives me another good defensive backbone mon, another stealth rocker, and a very sturdy Pokemon for what is necessary, and another Pokemon that really loves having really fat wish support because it doesn't get any reliable recovery, and Tabu Koko's there, so I'm likely not going to run Rest on it because I can't go to sleep in electric terrain. So it's a Pokemon that really appreciates what Alomomola can do, and it's another one of those Pokemon that it doesn't seem too scary on the surface, but it's if your opponent doesn't bring something to counter it, it can proceed to bulk out a good portion of the team, and it does have some heat options you could potentially run on slower teams, like a Sheer Force Rock Polish set. It can do certain things. It can even run a decent offensive set with, like I said, Sheer Force. It does get some decent coverage moves.
And Steelix just adds to that, again, to our earlier points. It adds to that more just obviously a dedicated wall. Of course, it can go the offensive option, but more so, I think we'll be seeing the dedicated wall version of the Steelix throughout the season. So you have the Alomomola and your Steelix for your dedicated walls, and you have more your offensive, dedicated offensive ones. So again, with that whole balance thing between going just offensive or defensive or one way or the other, or just in between, Steelix adds to that defensive portion of your team. And also, another stealth rocker is always nice. So that brings it up to what, 3 now? Mew, Garchomp, and Steelix?
Yeah, Mew, Garchomp, Steelix, and Garchomp and what was my other one again? Garchomp. Yeah, Steelix and Garchomp can consistently run stealth rocks on their sets. So I like having that Pokemon that can just reliably run stealth rocks. It doesn't feel like they're taking up a move slot.
Yeah, because that's one of Steelix's things. So I think great. Obviously a great NU pickup in first round.
Yeah. So I decided to go for my next one. I decided to grab a second fighting type because it does things differently than Pangoro can do, and that's Hitmonlee. And it's also another rapid spinner, which is really nice. But Hitmonlee basically gives my opponent something to prep for, and that's Unburden Electric Seed, which is something that I don't feel like I'm revealing because I feel like people should know that's kind of an idea behind it. It's kind of like people saying you draft Halucha with Tapu Koko. Of course, you're going to run Electric Seed on it, but that's not saying I'm going to run Electric Seed every single week. It forces them to prepare for Hitmonlee. Like, what if this thing does get to +2 speed? What if this thing just becomes faster than my entire team and I can't stop it? It just runs rampant. Plus, it can still have other options. Like, it could run it can use any item that's necessary. It can run a Dirtleechi Berry set. It can run, like, Power or Bounce. It can do a lot of things to then set itself up to sweep, or it can be a very hard wall breaker with reckless high jump kicks. It can do quite a good amount of things, and with base 87 speed tier, I think that's a very good speed tier for what is essentially a very powerful wall breaker.
Now, obviously, it does double up on the fighting types, but first of all, it gives you another spinner before we forget about that. Hazard move was always nice.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, it may not be the most reliable one, but it's there, obviously.
Yes. And Pangoro is part dark, so like it's not like I'm opening myself up to psychic spam.
Yeah. And Hitmonlee, obviously, it gives you potential for a sweeper, which I guess you have those, but this is more so a more traditional one.
Yeah, a more traditional sweeper with the fact that it can get auto speed gain. I know this does kind of give me a bit more of a fairy weakness, but I have Steelix and Arcanine. Like, I have options for fairies.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't feel like I opened myself up to where, if my opponent is a fairy, I just lose.
Obviously, that they have
Plus Mega Beedrill.
Yeah, Mega Beedrill. Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, they still need to get past that.
I think we forgot about that one for a second.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess Azumarill is, like, the only one that I can really think of that can immediately deal with it because it gets priority.
Was that drafted?
I don't remember if it was.
I don't think it was.
Anyway. My last pick was kind of an impulse pick. Okay, weird story. I honestly knew what I wanted to draft for NU. It was the first Pokemon that I thought of, and it wasn't Steelix. But I honestly forgot to pick it up. So I just looked at my draft, and I was blanking on what my last pick would be. I was like, okay, what do I not have yet? I don't have a Ghost type yet. Let's grab Mismagius. Which, for my team in particular, I don't know if it's necessarily going to end up doing too much. Like, don't get me wrong, Mismagius is a great Pokemon. It gets Nasty Plot. It gets all the coverage it needs in Rock, Psychic. I think it gets Grass coverage and Energy Ball. It can potentially run bulky sets with Heal Bell, Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp. It can do like a decent amount of stuff, but on my team in particular, it doesn't feel like it's going to end up doing too much for the team itself.
So that's why you're going to see next year. It was a F8 away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be F8 away for week 2 for Alolan Raichu. Nice Sombra. He's again with Hitmonlee. It's another Pokemon that's basically preparing them for electric terrain abuse. With the idea of the fact that I could just bring Alolan Raichu in and it's going to outspeed their entire team immediately. And there's not really much they can do to stop it. It will force them to run priority for Pokemons that have it, which is going to take up another move slot. And it can force prep on teams that like not necessarily want to have to run those preps. Like Tapu Koko and Alolan Raichu can just electric spam their way through teams if they're not careful.
I mean, if you got Tapu Koko and like if you're running in a GBA or not GBA, whatever the Smogon tier set kind of draft, you know if you get Tapu Koko, you're going to pick up Alolan Raichu if you can.
Yeah. Plus, like I said with Miss Mages, it gets Nasty Plot and really all the coverage it needs. It gets Focus Blast, Surf, Psychic, and Electric coverage. That's really all Alolan Raichu needs. Plus, I think it gets Grass Knot, so like
Yeah, it
even
does.
Pokemon like so even like really bulky like rock types can't really like stop it.
So again, like you already said this, but there's just so many mons on this team that just force prep Alomomola, Steelix, Alolan Raichu, and just you have to prep for your stall and your offense, and like it's just so many things, so many styles, just so many ways you can use these Pokemon that just force your opponent to think about it.
Yeah, I really did like this team. I like this team. I know there are a couple people that rank this team decently low, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think I did a pretty decent job of drafting offense, defense, and consistent momentum, which is a reoccurring theme here. In fact, you can see the entire team set up here. We got all the Pokemon that we need, and we filled really all the roles that were necessary. We got some tanks, we got some bulky pivot mons, we got a lot of momentum, and a lot of like hard offense. We even got some good wall breakers, and even a couple sweepers thrown in there, like Alolan Raichu, Hitmonlee, potentially Tapu Koko or Mew. Like, this team has a lot of options, and that's what I like on drafts. I like having a team that has options. I don't like drafting pure hyper offense or pure stall or pure balance. I like a team that can do a lot of different things. I don't like people to look at my draft and say, oh, this is what he's going to bring. This is what he needs to bring in order for his team to function. I can do whatever I need to do for the team, which I like.
And obviously, as you can tell by the Z at the top, Mew is the Z move mon.
Yeah, because like I said, Genesis Supernova is allowed. It could be seen as a bit counterproductive to run electric terrain and then make my Z move user a Pokemon that can then change it to psychic terrain, but there are still, that's mostly for Mew itself, like if Mew wants to do that, and it's not even saying that just because Mew's my Z-Mon, it's going to be running Genesis Supernova every single week, because like it can learn like pretty much every move in the game. So like odds are I'm not going to be running just pure psychic Z moves every single week.
So that's it for this. I think taking a final look over the draft, you don't see too many glaring weaknesses. And it's one of those teams where you just got you got your check box, you check it off, and like you got all the check boxes checked off with this draft.
Yeah.
It's one of those teams.
I like that my team isn't necessarily passive either. Like, the only very passive Pokemon on the team is Alomomola. And, like, if you want to try to take advantage of that by setting up or using Substitute, like, if you want to set up, you need to make sure you outspeed all my Pokemon that can come in and revenge kill you. Or, if you try to set up a sub, I have a Swellow that's likely going to be packing Boom Burst. So you're going to need to prepare for that as well.
So, yeah. Good luck. You're going to need it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Not you.
Oh.
Anyway. This has been the Hi, I'm Ian channel production. And,
yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Also, if you didn't know, it was an Overwatch team.
Yes, all the nicknames, if you're wondering what they were Overwatch characters. If you didn't know that, well, yeah.
In case you've been living under a rock and don't know what Overwatch is.
Yeah. Anyway.
Just thought I'd elaborate for all those
the normies.
All those
the normies
all
out
those
there.
Normies, yeah. all those people who have lives and don't play video games. What dorks.
Fucking nerds. And
all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah.